A brand new bombshell memoir from Virginia Roberts Giuffre has been released in the wake of her death. From Jeffrey Epstein to Ghislaine Maxwell to Prince Andrew to Mar-a-Lago to massages to powerful people, the revelations, what Giuffre alleges, provides a lot more context and detail in this constantly evolving story. We are bringing on an expert on the Epstein saga to make sense of how this memoir may change the game. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law&Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. I am here to do a job that never gets any easier. I'm here to stand up to those who have hurt me. I am here to reclaim my life. Those are the words of Virginia Roberts Giuffre, the famous Jeffrey Epstein accuser who tragically died in April of 2025. This is just a portion of Nobody's Girl, a memoir of surviving abuse and fighting for justice. This is the novel from Virginia Giuffre that she had penned and is now being released posthumously today, October 21st. And this provides just another layer in an already complex and constantly evolving Jeffrey Epstein story. And we're going to talk about what is being allegedly revealed here. Now remember, Giuffre is an important figure in all of this. She alleged that she was sexually abused and trafficked by Jeffrey Epstein and his accomplice Ghislaine Maxwell, basically pawned off to a lot of powerful people, but most notably, she alleges, as you may know, Prince Andrew. And while that is a claim that he has denied, remember, she filed a lawsuit against him, accusing him of abusing her when she was a teenager, and Andrew settled that in 2022. I will tell you, most recently, it was announced that he gave up his royal titles, including Duke of York. Andrew saying in a statement in discussion with the king and my immediate and wider family, we have concluded the continued accusations about me distract from the work of His Majesty and the royal family. I have decided, as I always have, to put my duty to my family and country first. I stand by my decision 5 years ago to stand back from public life. And it also came out that the Metropolitan Police are apparently, quote, actively looking into a newspaper report that Andrew had allegedly asked a royal officer, a guard that was assigned to his detail, to dig up dirt on Giuffre in 2011, even providing the guard with her birth date and social security number. Now, as we talk about Giuffre's memoir, there is a lot that she mentions about Prince Andrew, okay? So in one section, she discussed how she was taken on a shopping spree by Ghislaine Maxwell, prepped to meet the, quote, what she called handsome prince. And when he showed up, he was able to guess that she was in fact 17 years old, and she was allegedly told by Maxwell, do for him what you do for Jeffrey. And then there's this quote from the book, he was friendly enough, but still entitled, as if he believed having sex with me was his birthright. She would proceed to describe how they had sex, with him apparently showing an interest in her feet. She claimed Epstein paid her thousands of dollars to sleep with Andrew, and that included when she claimed she and Andrew had an orgy on Epstein's private island. And there's more too. There's about releasing a photo of the two of them together, and we're going to get to that. But it's not just Andrew she describes. She goes into detail about working at Mar-a-Lago. This is President Donald Trump's golf club in Palm Beach, Florida. She recounts how she first met Trump the first time when her father worked at Mar-a-Lago in maintenance. She writes how Trump, quote, couldn't have been friendlier, and asked her if she liked kids and whether she wants to babysit. That's how apparently she got a job taking care of kids for families near the resort. That she also worked at Mar-a-Lago's spa during the day. By the way, you may recall in a previous episode of Sidebar, the audio recording of Ghislaine Maxwell, the recent interview that she did with the DOJ, where she says that Trump played no part in anything that happened. And also, you may recall how over the summer, President Trump told a group of reporters that essentially Epstein had poached Giuffre from him because she had been working at Mar-a-Lago, and that's what maybe led to an end of their relationship, their friendship. But then Giuffre explains how right before her 17th birthday, that is where she meets Ghislaine Maxwell. In fact, she writes how Maxwell pulled up next to her in a car as she was walking to the spa at Mar-a-Lago, and she notes how the car was driven by Juan Alyssa. Juan Alyssa testified during Maxwell's federal sex crimes trial in New York City, where she was convicted, by the way, sentenced to 20 years in prison. And as Giuffre explains, Alyssa testified that she looked young, and Maxwell ordered him to stop the car. And she said that while she didn't realize at the time that Maxwell was following her, but she writes, quote, an apex predator was closing in. She goes on to explain how Maxwell comes to the spa, meets her. That's when she invites Giuffre to provide a massage to Jeffrey Epstein. Quote, come meet him. Come tonight after work. And from there, she gets into it all, how she claims she was trafficked to powerful people, including billionaire number one, who's not identified, a psychology professor. And People magazine, talking about this memoir, quotes her as saying, I came to be trafficked to a multitude of powerful men, Among them were a gubernatorial candidate who was soon to win an election in a Western state and a former U.S. senator. And she makes the point how Epstein would not really introduce her to these people by name or introduce them at all, that it would take years for her to really understand who they may have been because she looked at photographs of Epstein's associates and then recognized the faces. By the way, I have to say, this is a story that we try to get up really, really fast. We've been putting out a lot of content when it comes to the Epstein case. We put out a lot of content all the time on Sidebar and Law and Crime. And if you're wondering, how do we get those clips out so fast? What's the platform we use? Hey, maybe you're interested in growing your social media profile. Well, I'll tell you this little secret. We use a platform called Opus Clip. So this is an all-in-one AI editor that makes it easier and faster to cut, create, and upload videos across all social media platforms. Through the power of AI, Opus Clip, it automatically generates B-roll, it cleans up audio, and it reframes your videos for any platform. It is so easy to start using. I'm going to show you how right now. All you got to do is go to opus.pro/sidebar. You sign up, you upload a video, and in just a few minutes, you will have tons of perfectly edited clips ready to go. So whether you're making videos for TikTok or Shorts or Instagram Reels, Opus Clip is your one-stop shop for getting your best content seen by more viewers across all these platforms with the press of just one button. And if you're wondering how good these AI edited videos are from Opus Clip, just look at our content here at Law and Crime. Our producers have used Opus to help us cut and share clips of some of our biggest trials, and we get them to you really, really fast. Look, at Sidebar, we know that our listeners have a lot of opinions and ideas to share, and this is the most powerful tool there is to help you edit like a pro and grow your audience. So give it a try for yourself. Go to opus.pro/sidebar to start creating your own videos today. All right, so I want to get into all of this, and I want to bring on somebody I haven't seen in quite some time, Adam Klasfeld, editor-in-chief of All Rise News. You can check him out on X at @Klasfeld Reports. Adam, it's so good to see you again. When this story came out, we immediately thought of you. This memoir, it's a big deal. It's a big deal from a very prominent figure in this story. From what you've seen so far in this memoir, what's been reported on it, how does this change things? What did you learn?
So I would start to say, I have read it actually a little bit, an advanced copy, and it's a very moving memoir. Newsworthiness aside, it goes into the life of Virginia Giuffre that she co-authored with someone who really dove deep into her childhood. And it sheds light on the process that we've seen with so many Jeffrey Epstein victims of how he exploited people who were abused before. So I'm going to pivot, though, to the newsworthy highlights. But I don't want to lose sight of the broader humanity of Virginia Giuffre that's really rife in this book. We have learned much about her interactions with Prince Andrew. It will call attention to that. There was a quote that got a lot of media attention, that he treated sex with me like it was his birthright. Right. That was, of course, Prince Andrew continues to deny the allegations, but within days of this landing, he gave up his royal titles. Right. It's another shoe dropping. When he has issued denials before, he said that the famous picture everyone has seen of him and Virginia Giuffre might not be legitimate. Then Virginia Giuffre sued him, and before settling that lawsuit, he didn't go out and dispute the authenticity of that photograph.
But in this, she actually talks about the photograph. She says it was her idea to take it and actually publish it.
Correct. And there, of course, when her memoir comes out, people are going to be asking about the names. She goes out of the way to say that she is not going to provide a list of names because she is, at the time, this was, of course, published posthumously, but very much while she was alive. And she was worried as a mother about being sued. She describes her litigation with Alan Dershowitz. She describes a very violent interaction and rape by a former prime minister. Now, she doesn't name that prime minister in the book, but it's very clear from the context. She says it's someone that she accused before, and it's been reported in the New York Post. She's referring to Ehud Barak, and she alleges that this was such a violent series of interactions that it finally woke her up from what she describes as a very severe pattern of abuse with Jeffrey Epstein, and really made clear to her that she had to get out. It's that interaction that she said got her to leave entirely.
By the way, there was a part where there's a footnote where she talks about Bill Gates and how there was this potential plot to blackmail him?
Absolutely. Now, that's not a new revelation, but it calls attention to, she's commenting on how did Jeffrey Epstein operate? And one of the theories for the longest time is Jeffrey Epstein blackmailed people, because how does someone who is a former substitute school teacher become a incredibly wealthy person, possibly a billionaire, who is certainly hanging out with a lot of billionaires like Leon Black, who pays him 9 figures to do supposed tax and estate work. And so one of the theories that she addresses is, did Jeffrey Epstein have blackmail material on anyone? And the only on the record indication that, yes, Jeffrey Epstein blackmailed people is from Bill Gates himself. Bill Gates said, Jeffrey Epstein blackmailed me when he said he was having an affair. This isn't involving any minors. This was an affair with, as I remember, a Russian chess player, and that he had said that Jeffrey Epstein threatened to expose that affair if they didn't do some business together. So that's a clear evidence that it's really interesting. One kind of feature that I get immediately while reading this book, it's very carefully written. You know, Virginia Giuffre is no stranger to litigation. She has a co-author who gets everyone's response, even when she's talking about sexual abuse by her father. Her father's reply is embedded in a footnote. So this is a book not only that's deeply personal, that describes the pathway from sexual abuse to sex trafficking to recovery to advocacy on behalf of sex trafficking victims. It's rigorous. You can learn a lot. You know, I've been studying a lot of this litigation involving Jeffrey Epstein sex trafficking cases that have funneled through the courts. There's stuff about the lawsuits against major banks and their roles in it.
Yeah,
so
it felt very, very personal and very detailed and very descriptive. You know, the part that stuck out to me, one of the things, was when she describes first meeting Jeffrey Epstein. The first time that he ultimately touched himself while she was giving him this massage, that Maxwell was guiding her, directing her. And there are parts about it where she actually referred to them in kind of like these parental figures and how they would manipulate her and tell her what she wanted to know and influence her. That part was particularly chilling as you read it.
Right. And as someone who sat through the trial of Ghislaine Maxwell, she describes what's known as the grooming process. And that passage that you're talking about right now, Jesse, that's what she's describing, normalizing things that absolutely are normal. And of course, by the time she's in the orbit of Jeffrey Epstein, she's already, according to her memoir, been sexually abused by her father, has had this horrible experience at this so-called tough love center where other at-risk youth are kept, and as she describes it, in this kind of really horrific sort of even emotional abuse, made to look into a mirror and describe and denigrate themselves until she runs away from that and falls into the grip of a different sexual abuser. So it's a highly personal story, and it's a story of someone who ultimately, before her tragic death, became an advocate for other sex trafficking victims. So you see there are two things that really become strikingly apparent in this book. One, as you said, was the deeply personal nature of it, but also the real professionalism. This is someone who became a voice for victims, who was took a lead role in a lot of this litigation and tried to get the facts complete and give the people she accused their response on the paper.
Yeah, there was something that her co-author, Amy Wallace, had said, I think it was in a note at the beginning of the book, USA Today republished it. It says she wanted all her suffering to have accomplished something, and if she could help even one survivor of abuse, she said it would be worth all the effort. You know, there's a lot more about Epstein that we can get into. You know, there's this alleged threat that he made to her, that we know, where your brother goes to school. You can't tell anybody what goes on in this house. It's pretty chilling. There is a part that I wanted your opinion about. There's an excerpt that was published by CBS about when Giuffre goes to Paris in June of 2021, when she was, I believe, going to testify against French model scout and Epstein associate Jean-Luc Brunel in a sexual assault case. And the way she even writes it, it feels like a novel, like kind of paints the picture of her walking around and her family. But she says, I climbed a flight of stairs, turned a corner and froze. I know this room, screamed a voice inside my head. I'd been in this precise spot before 2 decades ago when I was just 17. Adam, what did you make of that part?
It was very, very powerful and happens very early on in the book. And of course, Jean-Luc Brunel died in his cell, hanged in a very similar manner to Jeffrey Epstein. She didn't get to testify against him, but she's describing the process of trying to be part of that criminal process to get some accountability against Jean-Luc Brunel and reliving the kind of international nature of Jeffrey Epstein's sex trafficking network. The fact that she's in Paris and that very environment there is triggering these memories. It hammers home the fact that she fell into his grips in Florida. But she's one of the few victims who has gone forward and with the ability to describe the far-flung nature of this, the international component of it, that she was a witness not only in the prosecutions in New York, but a continent away in Paris where that was going on.
And as we think about this, we think about her memory, we think about the last impact of what is said from Giuffre, and her co-author, as I mentioned, Amy Wallace, told CBS Sunday Morning that Giuffre kept the names that weren't made public, saying, quote, I may not remember days, times, and dates, but when you have a man raping you, his face 6 inches from your own, you remember that face. And she described what Giuffre went through as, quote, a modern handmaid tale. And she highlighted how when Epstein and Maxwell asked Giuffre to essentially carry a child for them, to sign away her parental rights, that's when she knew she had to get out. And you know, Adam, that was another important part about this, because you mentioned it, that she has helped to provide evidence that led authorities to Maxwell. She's inspired others. When you hear that, right, that description, what do you think the impact of this story is going to be? What do you think the impact of this memoir is going to be?
It's going to make sure that there's more pressure for more accountability, for more transparency. We're in this moment when there is a lot of talk about releasing the Epstein files. This memoir can be counted among those Epstein files and will light a fire under the demand for transparency, accountability. We recently saw people on near the Capitol in Washington, D.C., the survivors gathering, saying that they know the names. They're pushing for transparency so that if those names are exposed, they don't face potential lawsuits, and that some of the people who were there as Epstein survivors demanding accountability, they were some of the people who were mentioned in the book as a kind of community of people pushing this ahead. So I fully expect that this book will be part of that pressure for more transparency, more accountability. And that's exactly the legacy that Virginia Giuffre hoped to leave.
I mean, Adam, that's a really great way to explain it. And, you know, this is a powerful statement in the wake of her death, and I'm sure it's going to bring a lot more attention, and we'll see if it brings more accountability or more answers. Adam Klasfeld, thank you so much for taking the time. Let everybody know, I mentioned it before, but let everybody know where, if they want to see more of your reporting and more of what you do, let everybody know where they can find you.
Thank you so much, Jesse, and absolute pleasure here too. Great to see you again. If folks want to find out more about my work, visit www.allrisenews.com. You can also find us on Substack. If you sign up for my newsletter, you can get my reporting straight to your inbox.
Adam Klasfeld, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
And that's all we have for you right now here on Sidebar, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. And as always, please subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. You can follow me on X or Instagram. I'm Jesse Weber. I'll speak to you next time.